I am back for another lovely cooking experience with our friends at Grubby. Vegan recipes kits, all flavor, no fat. And I can vouch for that because this is my third one making this one right now. Let me just quit my email so they don't distract us. And my WhatsApp. Okay, so what are we making today? Can you see it? Jackfruit, chili sin carne, avocado, and basmati rice. Yummy-licious. Jackfruit is a big topic right now. A lot of our shifters are experimenting with it. I have eaten it, but I've never cooked with it. And that's why I've chosen this as the meal to make. I have so far literally simply taken all the ingredients out of the Grubby box and put them right in front of me. We have one red onion. They've given me two because they're little. Garlic. There we go. Red pepper. Here we are. Chili spice blend, which comes already measured. Very easy. Jackfruit in a can. Excited to try that. Passata in a carton. Black beans in a can. Agave syrup. Here we are. Basmati rice and the avocado, which is in the fridge. I shall tie my hair back because I can hear my mom's voice in the back of my mind. You must tie your hair when you cook. And I shall get started. So, it's very simple. I literally am just going to follow the instructions step by step. The first one is to heat some oil and saute the onion and garlic for 3 minutes with a little bit of water. I choose not to use much oil in my day-to-day cooking. So I'm actually going to skip the oil altogether. And I'm going to do what we call a water saute, where you literally just saute the onion and garlic in water without the need of adding oil. That way, your recipe remains a bit fresher and lighter. So, I'm chopping the onions. Let's not lose the onion. And this is, it might take some getting used to, but not from a flavor perspective, if I'm completely honest, especially not in a dish like this, which is quite seasoned and spiced. Really, it's more of a mental block around learning to saute without oil, because it's so ingrained in us that we need the oil that we feel there's something missing when we don't use it. But I encourage you to try it, and by all means, maybe make your first attempt something like this one, which has a lot of different flavors and a lot of seasoned spicy ingredients, and you will be surprised how it doesn't really make much of a difference to the taste. However, it makes the experience of eating that dish, in my opinion, different for the better. Because there's something about eating food that is not greasy, but still tasty, which leaves you, or at least it leaves me, feeling satisfied, but not bogged down and weighed down by the food. You know, when you eat greasy food, it really weighs on you. Like, I'm speaking literally and metaphorically, like it feels heavy in your body. You feel greasy from the inside out. And obviously, this wouldn't be a lot of oil. It would just be a tablespoon or so. But I mean, if you can skip the extra grease and calories, I'm actually going to put 4 garlic cloves because I love garlic. Excuse me for the onion tears. If you can skip it without compromising on the taste, then why not? I mean, just empty calories. And oil is, as you may know, the most calorie dense food there is, because they literally take the olives and strip everything and keep only the fat. And yes, of course, it's one of the healthier fats out there, no doubt about it, especially in comparison to, any animal-based source of fat, such as butter, lard, and even some other vegetable oils. Olive oil is healthier than some other vegetable oils, but it is still the most calorie-dense food out there. Literally by and far. And even healthy oils, excuse the onion tears, even healthy oils are just as calorie dense as unhealthy oils. This onion is really getting me going. So I choose to skip it for the most part. Then obviously if I go to a restaurant, yada yada yada, or if I go eat out, or if I eat at friends, it's not like I'm gonna go and request that they do things differently. But just by skipping it at home, I avoid a lot of extra added liquid fat and calories into my cooking. Okay, so we've done the onion, we've done the garlic. I'm literally just going to add some filtered water. And you see how much you need. You can always top it up. I've added about an inch to the pan. I'm going to put the pan on. And I'm going to let it do its thing whilst I clean my board. I'm actually going to cover it to begin with, so that it can really heat up. And really, the onion and the garlic release their flavor just by through the heat. You don't really need the oil to release the flavor. Just gonna empty this in my bin, which is right here. I'm keeping this very real. These videos are as real as it comes. It's nothing polished. It's nothing kind of, probably not really Instagram worthy, but I want you to see the real deal of the experience and how easy it is to make these delicious grubby meals from scratch. Okay, so now, what's the next step? I still have the tissue from last week. We're gonna let that go. In the meantime, what we can do is the next step, which is the red pepper. We're gonna slice it and clean it, because eventually it goes in with the onion. So I'm gonna rinse it. And the recipes are completely self-explanatory in that just by following what it says on here, you really can't get anything wrong. So here's a tip with peppers. You want to try and avoid that kind of white bit which attaches the seeds to the skin of the pepper, because that's the bit that some of us find hard to digest from the pepper. So I've kept that out, and I'm only left with the kind of the red bit without the white strips. I'm gonna cut it in strips as recommended. Looks very fresh. Whenever I cook with veggies, I have to really hold myself back from not eating them raw, because I have a thing for raw veggies. As those of you who follow me regularly in my live or who follow my Instagram and see my food pics know, I eat a lot of raw veggies and salads and stuff. And I'm not saying that you should only eat raw, by the way, although some people do so successfully, and I probably would give that a go if I lived somewhere a bit warmer. But even I eat them cooked, but I definitely make sure that every day I get a ton of raw veg in my diet. There is no other foods which are as nutrient dense as raw vegetables. I'm going to open the window because inevitably the onion that's cooking is starting to release its flavor. There you go. There's this moment when cooking an onion in the beginning stage of the sauteing process, especially when you don't use oil, where obviously it's releasing all the stuff that you don't want to eat in the onion, so that you're left with just that nice, sweet, delicious flavor. But let's be honest, this phase doesn't taste particularly good. Okay. Fascinating how sometimes you have to go through an unpleasant stage before you get to a more pleasant one. Why am I not surprised by this? It's life in a pan. Endure the slight unpleasantness in full confidence that there's a purpose behind this, and it will be worthy of this phase. Okay, red pepper is sliced. As soon as this is sauteed sufficiently, I will add the pepper to the onions, and then I will add the chili spice mix. At this point, it's asking me to drain the jackfruit. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the rice on. This is, I think, is just Basmati rice. So I'm going to kind of skip a step. Whilst this is cooking, the onion, I'm actually going to put the Basmati rice on. Alrighty. You know what? I have another pack of Basmati somewhere, because I have a second recipe box by Grabby. So I'm actually going to cook both sachets at once, which will save me time for when I cook the second recipe box. Whenever I cook grains of any kind, I never just cook enough for that one portion or that one meal. I always cook them in bulk. Excuse me, because then you get to you can just save them and be done with them. I'm rinsing the rice before I cook it. It's a good practice to remove any dirt, a little bit of the excess starch. I'm going to give it a few more rinses. You can see the onion cooking down behind me. Still smelling a little bit unpleasant. The good phase will come soon. Second bit of rinse to the rice. I think I'm going to give it a third. Here we are. I get asked a lot, what is my opinion in terms of eating rice, especially white rice. In fact, I get asked about carbohydrates all the time. There's this myth which still permeates society that carbs are bad for you. So people really demonize, criminalize carbohydrates, including rice. And of course, in an ideal scenario, you would prefer whole grain brown rice over white rice from a nutrition standpoint, because when you eat whole grains, you're eating way more fiber, you're eating way more nutrients, it's low glycemic index, so it's absorbed into the bloodstream much more slowly, and yada, yada, yada. But still, white rice is not the worst thing you can be eating, let me tell you. And the proof is in the fact that some of the populations that consume the greatest amount of white rice, the original indigenous populations, before they westernized their diets, such as the Asian populations, used to be some of the ones that experienced the least amount of chronic disease. It's not the rice that makes us sick. Okay, so I've added one fingertip of filtered water on top of the rice, and now I'm gonna put it on. This is a tip that a friend of mine from Philippines shared with me a long time ago, how to cook rice the immersion way, which is very different from how we cook it in Italy. In Italy, we boil it like pasta, rather than just adding only enough water so that it gets absorbed. The onion is cooking down beautifully. It still needs a little bit more. I like my onions well done, otherwise they get a little bit tough to digest to me. But you can see, like, already tastes sweet, rather than that kind of bitter beginner taste when you just first start cooking it. Okay, so the rice is on. At some point, I will add the pepper to the onions as soon as the onion is right. It's perfect. And then I will add the spice. So what I can do to prep for myself is to drain the jackfruit. Let's not burn the onion, but I might add another splash of water. I wonder if you guys can see it. Yeah. Now at this point, I'm going to add another little splash of water. I'm not going to add too much water at a time at this point, because I want it to caramelize after it's softened. I don't want it to get too soggy, but a little bit more is needed. And it's really creating that nice caramelized effect on the pan as well, which will add a bit more flavor to the overall dish. So that's great. Okay, so just give a few more minutes, and in the meantime, I rinse the jackfruit. I'm excited to try this. Like I said, our shifters have been inspiring me by posting pictures of jackfruit meals into our private group, where we inspire one another, learn from one another. I'm not only in the teacher mode when I'm in there, I also learn from them, because I've never cooked with the jackfruit. I've tried it at restaurants, but I've never cooked with it. And one of them posted a nice recipe that contained jackfruit, and I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to. I'm trying a little piece. That's not bad at all. It's almost a little bit like artichoke hearts. It's got that kind of flavor and texture to it. That's actually really good. I can eat that just as it is. Okay, the onion is pretty much ready. I'm going to wait for the water to go down, and then I'll add the pepper. I've drained the jackfruit. As soon as I add the pepper in here and free up space on the chopping board, I will finely dice into pieces the jackfruit, and then stir into the pepper with 100 ml of boiling water. Okay, so I'm going to boil the kettle. While this cooks down, 100 ml is not very much, but I'm going to put a little bit more. I should put a little painting on here, shouldn't I? So that you guys have got something pretty to look at as a background to my cooking. Keep you posted. Okay. Onion is done. Ready to add the pepper. And potentially another splash of water. That's the one thing, of course, of cooking without oil. You don't want things to stick, so you splash with water. Although the pepper will now release its own water, so don't go crazy with it. What we're also going to do is turn it down ever so slightly. Yeah, this is smelling good already. Okay. Dice the jackfruit. This is what it looks like. It tastes really good. I'm going to pop it on my board and dice it up into pieces. And then I will add the passata in there too, apparently. So I'm told. I am curious to see what the end result of this will be. Find this, cut into fine strips, is telling me. So that's what I'm gonna do. But you can see it's got this kind of, I can see why they use it a lot in the dishes that generally would require, the animal version would require, would call for pork, or because it's got that kind of stringy texture about it. So how fascinating. So great to experiment with new things, and I'm not particularly one to look for an experience with substitutes that of animal products, because I've been fully plant-based for so long that I don't crave that kind of substitution anymore. I completely respect those who do, and I think there is absolutely nothing wrong to try and recreate that experience, simply because we were used to eating in that way for such a long time. You know, there are such strong ties to certain dishes and certain experience that I don't see anything wrong with the fact that even as you shift towards eating more plants or only eating plants, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to recreate those experiences. You know, it only but makes sense. After all, we like things that are familiar to us. We like things that remind us of past experiences, families, this, that, the other. And that shouldn't stop us from evolving either. There's a way to do a bit of both by creating what I always tell our shifters, I call the upgraded version of your old habits and traditions. Because, you know, think about what a tradition is. It's nothing about a habit which somebody at some point certainly did and implemented for the first time, which then becomes, it gets repeated over time and it gets passed on. So at some point or another, any tradition, as old as it may be, somebody did for the first time. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to upkeep our traditions, so long as it doesn't become a mission that ends up hurting us. So I always say to our shifters, tradition is fine so long as it doesn't hurt you. If it does, then it's time to upgrade it. Do you upgrade your food traditions regularly? Do you upgrade your food habits regularly? I'm going to put this garbage. Because if not, you're living by rules that might not best serve you anymore. Brilliant. So we're going to add 100 ml of water, which is not very much. Probably more in the end, but I'm going to start with 100 ml as the recipe calls. And I'm going to add the jackfruit. And at this point, it's calling for the spice mix too. Jackfruit goes in. The spice goes in. You guys. This is looking exciting. Now with the spices added onto it, it's starting to smell really good. The rice is cooking in the meantime. I love chili flavored stuff. I love Mexican inspired, Latin American inspired flavors are some of my favorite. You know, of course, my husband is from Belize. There's a lot of this kind of flavor going on down there. I love the food in Belize. So vegan friendly, or at least the way we eat it is vegan friendly. I tell you, rice and peas like there's no tomorrow. Okay, so let me come back to this for a second. I think I'm gonna give it a minute for the spices to do their thing, and then I'm gonna add the passata. Brilliant! You guys, we're processing very well. The rice is cooking. Should be ready any minute. White rice doesn't take very long to cook at all. I'm gonna turn it off in a minute and let it absorb the last few minutes, the last few bits of water without the heat on. Okay. Now I'm gonna add the passata in a moment. And then the last steps will be the beans and the agave syrup. You guys, I'm excited. I mean, honestly, I haven't eaten chicken in a long time, right? Or pork or anything else. So I don't have I haven't cooked in like, I don't know, 8 years. But given that my memory is now withering away, I would be fooled if I just took a quick glance at this dish right now with this jackfruit, because it looks remarkable. Passata goes in. Nothing like a tomato passata. Me being Italian, I love me some tomato. I'm gonna keep the carton just for a moment. In case we need to add a little more water, I'm gonna do it by pouring water in the carton so that you kind of can collect the last few bits of passata that might be stuck in it. But first, let me give it one last serious squirt to get it all out. Fantastic. Stir it well. I'm gonna turn the rice off so that you can absorb the last little bit of water without it sticking too much or overcooking too much. At some point I'll add a little bit of salt, but I like to do that at the very end because I find that when I keep adding salt as I go along, I feel like I end up adding more than if I simply just wait till the end and add whatever is needed for the flavor to be complete at the end. Tomato passata. I'm going to turn it down ever so slightly. A color. Now I'm going to drain and rinse the black beans because I'm going to stir them into there, and this will stew for 20 minutes. We're almost there, you guys. These recipes are a no-brainer. They are so easy. Each step is covered. Like, honestly, so easy. I'm draining the beans. I don't even use a colander to drain the beans. I literally just cover the can with my hand. It doesn't look pretty. That's why it's good that you're not seeing it. I'm gonna give it just a smidgen of a rinse to remove any extra stuff and potential sodium. Who knows what salt they use? Better use my salt. rice is cooked and it's just sitting there, keeping warm. This is looking divine. I can't show you. Maybe you can see a little bit. Yeah, let me do this. Beautiful, rich, delicious, vibrant. Smells amazing too. I'm gonna just give it a few more minutes on its own and then I'm gonna add the beans. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna add the beans and let gently simmer for another 10 minutes. And then the last thing to go in is the agave syrup. And then it's done. This is to be served with the rice and with avocado, which I have here. I'm gonna keep this in the fridge for now. So fundamentally, once I add the beans and the agave, it's ready. Of course, because it's not made with pork or beef, it's made with jackfruit. It cooks in a fraction of the time because the jackfruit is already it's ready. It could be eaten as it is. It doesn't really need cooking. So it's not like with meat that you have to be careful that you cook it properly or you might get sick. The peppers, I'm gonna stick a little knife into it, but they look soft to me. Yeah, they are. Okay, I'm gonna finish it off so you guys see everything goes in. I'm gonna put the black beans in there. The black beans add the little final touch of depth, a different color, a different texture, and the final Mexican touch to really bring this home. Agave syrup. When you cook with tomato sauce, sometimes it's good to add a little bit of a sweet tone because the tomatoes generally speaking tend to be quite acidic. Although if you have them in Italy in the summer, they're actually literally like they taste like boiled sweets, that they're best sweet. And at this point I will add a pinch of salt. And I will stir everything in. I am so looking forward to trying this, honestly. This is gonna be amazing. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let it stew for just a few minutes more, but before I do that, I am going to taste it. I think it just needs for this agave to melt fully. Pinch more salt. You guys, this is a winner. Eugene is gonna love this. Totally up his street. This is me done. I don't even think it was 30 minutes. I'm gonna let it stew for about 5 to 10 more minutes so that all the flavors come together. The rice is finished. Nice and fluffy, not too cooked. Perfect. Well done me. Oh, I'm giving myself kudos for the rice. It took me a long time to learn to make good rice. Yep. It's ready. As usual, I'm gonna take a picture and show you the final product. So check out my feed. Check out the Facebook group or our YouTube channel. And I hope you had fun cooking with me for 35 minutes, including all the prep. Good job, Grubby. Here we are. Stay tuned for a picture of the jackfruit chili sin carne by Grubby coming up on my feed very soon. And I have a smashing Saturday. I'll catch you for another one very soon. Ciao for now. Bon appetit.